What's going on? And welcome to the Mark and Graham podcast, episode 19. Sports are back. Life is getting back to normal. We have a familiar friend and face on the podcast today, Nick Nasseby, host of NBA Stories. Nick, how you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm living the dream. I'm in the epicenter of COVID, so that's fun. It's a real mess down here. I don't really have a life anyway, so it's okay. So I'm just hanging out. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You want to talk about NBA Stories real quick and the
Sure.
projects you've been up to with me and
Yeah,
Mark?
I just had both you guys on for the last episode. We talked about the bubble. We talked about some underrated players. That was episode 19. We got 20 coming up next week, and Logan. I'm gonna have Logan on here, and we're gonna talk about one of my favorite players to talk about, Mr. Pistol Pete Maravich. I a lot of NBA podcasts I know go like the talk about current events and all that stuff. I don't know. I love the NBA history, and I don't think it gets enough recognition. So I like to talk about it. Obviously, we're going to throw in some current stuff too, but it's going to be a good time. I have some stuff going on. I want to talk about Tim Donaghy in the next few weeks too, just because that's another pretty cool topic. But we'll see. I'll see how we can orchestrate it. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
There we go. My brother, Mark, how we been doing?
I'm doing all right. We got Phillies Yankees going on right now. That's why I'm repping my boys right now. But the bullpen's been a little bit nerve wracking. We got a lead right now, but I don't have much confidence with the bullpen coming in later in this game. So would not be surprised to see the Yankees come back. It's pretty cool though. We both have episode 19 of both the Mark and Graham podcast and NBA Stories coming out this week, and then episode 20 of our podcast coming up in the next couple of weeks. That's going to be an exciting one. We have a lot in store for you guys. Definitely going to be previewing some fantasy football stuff coming up in the end of August. So it's an exciting time. We're going to have the playoffs in every sport coming around at the start of NFL season, and I could not be more excited. It's like we went from 0 to 100 with the sports world in a matter of no time.
Yeah, I'm actually currently in the middle of a parlay, so if you see me tick, just know something happened. But I kind of miss just the rush of betting in sports again, and Brett Gardner just got thrown out at second. Anyway, it's just nice to have that rush and that, oh shit, I'm losing my money feeling again, because sports are back, baby. We're back and better than ever. Let's get right into it. Clown of the day. I'll let my man Mark kick this off.
Yeah, I just touched on it. Clown of the day has got to be the Phillies management, and especially their general manager, Matt Klentak, for not addressing the bullpen this offseason. It's the worst bullpen in the sport by a mile. If you want to check it out at Markdown Sports and my writing page on Last Word on Sports, I've been talking a lot and venting about this bullpen. I have a piece coming out later this week, actually, with some possible trade ideas for the Phillies and some relief arms in their system right now that they could potentially bring up. But it's an interesting situation. The Phillies were off for a week. You come back and you have to play the best team in baseball, the New York Yankees, and the best pitcher in baseball, in Garrett Cole. And after a week of not playing, they were in a tough spot. People were complaining that Aaron Nola got taken out of the game yesterday, our ace, but we were talking about this in the pre-show. It's just a tough spot when you have all these pitchers that when they're off because of COVID-related reasons, they don't even have places to warm up in their hotel. It's hard to throw a bullpen when you're in a hotel. These guys were taking mattresses and putting them in the hallway to throw bullpens. So it's just a weird situation, and the Phillies did not help themselves by not adding any bullpen arms.
It's wild to see these adult men relying on youth travel baseball-esque types of practicing, like when they're in hotel rooms and things like that. But yes, the Phillies organization needs a bullpen. So sticking with the theme of baseball, my clown of the day has to be the New York Mets. I have never seen the turmoil of a once World Series team happen like this. And I think finally, 5 years after the World Series, it's all coming to a crash. They let a man steal $110 million from their franchise. Could you believe that? $110 million. $110 million to play 5 games one season and quit the rest. Before the season starts, you break both your heels. Like, what? It just classic Mets behavior. So, you know what? I can't even explain because it makes me laugh so much. But the Mets, you're my clown of the day. You're a joke organization. You're a bunch of bots. You're a bunch of losers. And you need to check yourself. Nick, clown of the day, who we got?
Before I go into it, they're literally paying Bobby Bonilla since 1999.
That is a very smart
They
financial
literally
plan.
were in the Ponzi scheme. Like they were in that big Ponzi scheme. I forgot his name. The dude who got arrested for like the $2 billion. Like he literally Ponzi schemed the Mets. They're terrible with money. They've always been bad with their money. That's not surprising. Well, what's surprising is that a man literally no call, no showed a professional baseball team. It reminded me when Derrick Rose did that on that Knicks game that one
For the
time.
Knicks, yes.
Worried about him because he was in like a weird, mental space. But mine is actually I just switched it right now because I thought of something. And it's Mike Big Bud Budenholzer. And for me, it's just thinking about the way that these Bucks are playing. And every game's on national TV. Every single time they're on the court, everyone's watching them play. They're the number 1 seed in the East. They're supposed to be the best team in the East. And their starters play so poorly that he sits them in the first half. And it's not necessarily all on him. But I do blame him a lot, especially for their loss last year against the Raptors. I don't think he uses Giannis right. I just think that he lets Giannis do too much on his own, and I think that he allows Giannis to create more than because we all know he's very good at that. But when you take away his jump shot, he ain't got nothing else. If you're able to stop him from getting to the basket, which Kawhi did last year in the playoffs, he stopped him. But the thing that people don't pay attention to is that Giannis is shooting 38% on catch and shoot threes, which is like right above the league average.
Yeah, no, of course. But here's how I look at the Bucks, and correct me if I'm wrong, but and I know they're 2 different players here, but the way Mike D'Antoni uses James Harden. Could you make the argument that it's pretty much parallel in terms of doing whatever you want? Could you make that comparison to how Budenholzer uses Giannis? This is a question for both of you.
Well, they're both 5-out teams, so yes, in a sense, right? It's whoever's bringing the ball up is starting with their isolation. The difference is that James Harden is a 3-level scorer, and as we've seen by people taking 6 feet off of Giannis when he's at the 3-point line, Giannis is clearly not a 3-level scorer. But the issue is, and this is what I keep going back to, like he can shoot relatively well, but he's a catch and shoot shooter. Like a lot of men his size, a lot of players his size can't create a shot like that. It's very difficult when you're that size, but you can catch and shoot. And that's what I think he needs to figure out a way to work that into his arsenal so that he can start to step away from the basket and start making some of those shots too.
Exactly. And again, I'm going to touch on the Rockets again in the next segment. But, Mark, do you find that having a star player on your team and just letting him do whatever he wants, do you think that's a correct way of coaching, or do you think that should be the last thing that a coach should do?
I think it all depends on the situation. But the problem that both the Rockets and Bucks have had is not recognizing that playoff basketball is a lot different than regular season basketball. And especially with the Bucks, it's like you can dominate the regular season all you want, but when you're not a team that's designed to play in the playoffs, and they've proven it every single time. When they face a big man underneath who can throw his hands in the air and defend the rim, Giannis is a little lost. And like Nick said, though, he has learned a jumper, but why don't you recognize that part of his game and add that element to it? I also am a little unsure of this lineup with DiVincenzo starting. He's a guy I've been watching him since Villanova, and I like him, but he's a role player off the bench. I don't necessarily see the fit there in the starting lineup. I know they're limited in options, and I think they were a bit banged up, but I'm unsure of the role players on that team. I have been for a while. I like Middleton, but he isn't, I'm sorry, as great as he is, and people will always say that he's underrated, but I still don't think he's a number 2 on a great playoff team and a championship contender. And I don't think Chris Middleton will ever morph into that, in my opinion.
He won't. he's a good compliment. But the way that people are looking at it is that Giannis is so good that you don't need a number 2 guy. He is, MVP caliber. It's like LeBron with the Cavaliers, right? Like Kyrie is a number 2 guy, but when we weren't seeing him like that at that point, because it's LeBron, you don't really need another guy there. But I think that if you figure Giannis is like, you can figure him out. I think that people in the playoffs have figured him out rather consistently. And I am of the opinion, and I've been saying this since before the season, that if they don't get to the finals, at the very least get to the finals, this is when we're going to start to talk about Giannis in the same type of conversations that we talked about LeBron at the end of his Cavs days, the first time, when we're like, he can't get it done. He can't get it done. And, it's going to start to do that. And the issue is, if they lose, the pundits like Skip Bayless and all of these guys are going to go back and forth as to why he's not good enough. And then Steph Curry's going to call him. And then we have another big 3 that we have to worry about for the next 10 years. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But I know the Warriors are going to make a push for him this summer. The Bucks are a good team. They have the best player in the world. They have one of the best coaches in the game. I don't see them as being a genuine contender. And I think it's got a lot to do with Budenholzer not running them the correct way and just trying to do this 5-out.
And with that being said, we are going to go to a new segment on the Mark and Graham podcast today called Are You Sold? And pretty much what we're going to do is we're just going to tell you a team that people are very hyped on, but we're just not sold on them winning a championship. And I think, Nick was hinting at the Bucks. That's just one of the teams that we're going to talk about. But, I'll kick it off. I'm not sold on the Houston Rockets, man. And for anyone that says that they are sold on the Houston Rockets, I don't know how. This is a team that is underperforming to the max. And I know you're saying, oh, they're in the 5th seed. No, they're not in the 5th seed. They're in the 5th seed, but they're tied with a Thunder team who should easily have 10 wins less than them. And that's what it should be. This Rockets team should be, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I expect a Rockets team to be competing for the 2nd seed with the Clippers right now, not competing for the 3rd seed. Mike D'Antoni has completely mismanaged this team. And I know you're saying, but they're in the 4th seed. They're 40-24. They're 15 games from 500. Great. I don't give a damn how many points Harden and Westbrook score a night. You don't have a big man. So the second that you play a team with a big man, fucking even the Clippers, all they need is Zubac, and they have a bigger guy than the Rockets have. They don't stand a chance against teams with big guys like the Mavericks, which is a team that can easily run into them. And
how do the Mavericks use their big guys, though? They have them shoot threes. How do the Bucks use their big guys to have them shoot threes? I was thinking about this when you were on my pod making this point, because I want to say, let me just ask this question. Do you genuinely and truthfully think that Clint Capella is the difference between the Rockets making the championship? Clint Capella, do you genuinely think that he's the softest big man in the entire league, maybe besides Cat? Do you really think that he is the difference maker for them to get to the championship?
Listen, you also forget that the Mavericks have Boban. And I don't care I know he's not great, but he's 7'4" and he's standing under the basket. I don't care how good PJ Tucker is. You cannot play center against a guy who's 7'4", Nick. I'm sorry. The physics are just not there.
Defense. They're not really necessarily trying to play defense. D'Antoni's never been a guy to play defense. He's a matador guy. He's always been like that.
You saw almost a week ago, the Mavericks played the Rockets. There was no defense being played. Each team scored over 150 points.
Who won?
And the Mavericks were this close.
But did they win?
This close. No, they didn't win. But this is a matchup you're going to want to see. I am not sold on the Houston Rockets. I do not think they have a chance. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all if you saw the Houston Rockets bumped out of the first round in the NBA bubble playoffs. I would not be surprised by that. This is a regular season team, meaning they perform well in the regular season, but every year they come up short. Since the Dwight Howard days, every year it seems like it's like a game of chess. Like
Grady days, man. They've been doing it forever.
The Rockets have been playing chess. It's always, okay, who can I move into this spot to try to do well? Oh, that doesn't work. All right, let me move this. And it's just a constant game of chess. And I think at a certain point it becomes unhealthy, and it becomes a point where guys on top need to start talking to the employees on the bottom. So I'm talking about ownership. I'm talking about management. We cannot let D'Antoni just let Harden run the entire game. That's not how you win games. So yes, I'm sticking with my opinion. I am not sold on the Houston Rockets. Mark, who do you got for Are You Sold?
I touched on it already, but the team I'm not sold on is Milwaukee, and there's a lot of reasons to go into it. I think the East is complicated this year, but I think people are writing off every other team because of the Bucks' regular season record. And it's time we recognize, first of all, the fact that the Raptors are legit as any team in the NBA currently. I watched that Saturday night Lakers game, and I watched a team that plays like a unit like no other in the NBA right now. They're more of a team than the Lakers are, than the Clippers are, than the Rockets are, because they don't have new acquisitions. They're all of those guys have been playing together since they won the championship last year. The only difference is they lost Kawhi Leonard, but it seems like Siakam's stepping up. Kyle Lowry's back to having a top tier role on that team. Van Vliet looks incredible since the start of the resume. This is just a really good team all around. And I think they're as deep as any in the NBA right now. But back to my team that I'm not sold on, the Bucks. I think that we're forgetting the fact that much time off has kind of killed their momentum. They were the number one team going into the playoffs had the quarantine not occurred. But all of that momentum they built up has just been put on pause, and it's obvious. They right now probably have more turmoil in the locker room after that Budenholzer decision to bench them at the half the other day against the Bucks than any other team. And it's crazy because they're going to go into the playoffs as the one seed in the East, and I don't think we can look at them that way anymore. Because of the quarantine, seeding means absolutely nothing anymore. Because a team like the Portland Trailblazers that could barely sneak in as the 8 are not an 8 seed by any means. They
are not an 8 seed.
They have Jusuf Nurkic, one of the most underrated players in basketball, coming back healthy. They have Zach. They might have the best 1 through 5 starting lineup in the game right now, and I'm serious. Skinny Melo looks incredible.
Do not be surprised. And I heard on Get Up this morning, I heard Mike Greenberg talking about this, and he said it, and I was like, wow, this guy's fucking right. He said that he would not be surprised to see an 8th seeded Blazers team knock off a 1-seeded Los Angeles Lakers team in the playoffs. As crazy as that is, Nick, I know it's crazy. I know you may disagree with me.
I for sure
but
agree with that 100%.
This Trailblazers team, first of all, Melo is still Melo. I don't give a damn what anyone says.
Everyone's so surprised.
I will have respect for that brother.
Yeah.
I will have respect for that brother forever. Melo is not a bad player. He is a contributing starter on a playoff contending team. I don't know what more you can ask for from Carmelo. And it's so sad that people wrote this guy off like he was nothing. This Blazers team is coming full force in the playoffs. It's only a matter of time until the Grizzlies lose hold of that 8 seed because they're going without Dillon Brooks, I think, who's out for the season. I'm really confident. Mark, I'm sorry to take away from your explanation on the Bucks. I could see this Blazers team knocking off a Los Angeles Lakers team in the first round, and I think that's going to be something special. But yeah, back to your argument on the Bucks, Mark. Do you see them getting knocked out early by any teams in the East, or do we see them coasting to the Eastern Conference Finals here?
Now that's the problem: is do I see them getting bounced in the first round or so? No, the East is extremely weak. I mean, we all saw the news with Ben Simmons today. Looks like he could be missing some serious time. Who knows if he'll even come back? The Sixers look like a mess. I'm not even going to get into that. The Nets and the Magic are both going to get in the playoffs with dog shit records, and they stand no chance at upsetting anyone. But I think that second round is where things will get interesting because the Heat, Celtics, and Raptors can all beat the Bucks as far as I'm concerned. I actually think the Celtics would have the hardest time because they lack a big man. But even don't be surprised, the Pacers, when they come back a little bit healthy, Sabonis kills them, not having Sabonis. But that Pacers team plays together, and they are playing really well to start the bubble right now. But
All
I
right.
don't see the Bucks. I don't see the Bucks losing in the first round, but they're not going to make it to the finals, in my opinion.
All right, so there we go. Mark, you are not sold on the Bucks. And finally, from our NBA guru, who I'm pretty interested to hear from, based on what he had to tell me before the show, Nick, who aren't you sold on?
I mean, I was watching the Lakers Thunder game last night, and it was just a nightmare. Nothing worked. They couldn't get any offense going. They were getting torched by Chris Paul, who, by the way, and I saw a tweet about this today, and I agree with it. I would say that you gotta have to make a case for this guy being the second best point guard ever at this point. I mean, just there's a lot there. You know, you want to talk MVPs? Well, he should have had it in 08. They gave Kobe one because they had to, but you know, Chris Paul was the MVP that season. He's been doing this for a very long time, and he is the catalyst on a team that really shouldn't be as good as they are, and they're very good. And they beat the Lakers by damn near 40 points last night. You know, it was an absolute shellacking. And so the Lakers are going in as the clinched 1 seed, and what you're saying is now we got teams vying for that 8th seed in the West. And as you guys know as well as I do, 1 through 8 in the West has always been a crapshoot. There's never really been a Western Conference where, I mean, there's some years, but in the recent years, there's been seasons where 1 through 8 is separated by 5 games. That happened like in 2015.
And it's wild. And it's
Is
nuts.
separated. Literally, you could be the 1 seed today and the 7th seed next week. It's been like that. There's been years like that. Now this year's not as much. LA had played very well during the season and they got it done, but it's not going to really be LeBron's call. It's going to be Anthony Davis. He's got to show up, and he has been showing up. But the rest of the team has been subpar, and for LeBron to be subpar means he still looks great, but there's a lot of things that he's not doing, and he's becoming more one-dimensional than usual, and that's a concerning thing for someone like me to watch, because if LeBron is not contributing period on offense and is relying on defensive stops to be a contributor on the team, that's a problem. You know, if you don't have a genuine third option, that's why the Blazers are so dangerous, is because they have a consistent third option. They actually have 2. You know, they have a third and a fourth option with Nurkic, like you're talking about. This guy can put up 30 on any given day. I've been saying this guy he's primed to explode. That very unfortunate
coming out party.
I mean, he had a very unfortunate leg injury. And I said this about Hayward. I said this about Paul George. Some people come back, some people don't. Those 2 are very good examples of either side of that pendulum. Right, Paul George came back, got better. Hayward never really recovered from his
horrific leg injury. Horrific
both
leg
of them.
injury.
But Nurkic's was too. If you haven't seen it,
oh, gross! It was
like that. It was a compound fracture. So no one really thought he was going to come back from this. And with the NBA the way that it is, having a center who is that size, like you're talking about, and can actually produce on the offensive side. Cantor's a good size center for the Celtics, but he is very, very inconsistent on offense. So it's like sometimes he's just he's wasting space. Sometimes he's there for a good reason. Nurkic is consistent when it comes to his offense. So we'll see what happens when they go up against the Lakers team, because we forget they also have Hassan Whiteside. And I know that people snack on him all day, but like, he has had seasons where he has had 14 boards a game and about 3 blocks a game, and he can also put up 20 points in a game. Like, there's a lot of things there with him. So this Blazers team's very hot right now. Obviously, they have a loss in the bubble, but the Lakers team, this is the first year and I'll say this, the first year since the Big 3 started in Miami that we do not have a general idea or a lock for the finals. And I think the 1 seed this year is not very strong. And I think there's a lot of teams who could beat the Lakers. And I think that literally their first round matchup, hopefully it's Portland, is one of those teams. So we'll see what happens.
This year is so interesting. And Mark, I'm going to let you start on our next segment because you want to touch on what Nick was just speaking about. But I find something crazy is that Greg Popovich is about to miss the playoffs for the first time since I wasn't even born. 1996, his first year of coaching. So Nick, you were what, like 15 years old? You old fart?
Yeah. It was my first year at law school.
Yeah, no. I just find that crazy. So our next segment is called Sleepers, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to give you a team that we think has a really good shot at making a run. And just because Mark's going to tippy toe off what me and Nick were just saying, Mark, who do you got as a sleeper? And I'm pretty sure our listeners know what's coming.
Yeah, I might give you guys two names, one in the West and one in the East, because I've already
Go for
talked. We've talked a lot about the team I was gonna say, which is the Blazers. They're my big time sleeper. I think they're gonna sneak into the playoffs and have a real shot at upsetting the Lakers once they get there. Some just more talking about the weaknesses with the Lakers too. I've had a problem with the way they put together the role players on this team since day one. When Kawhi Leonard decided to go to the Clippers, the Lakers scrambled and they signed every notable name that they possibly could to make their fan base happy. They brought in a guy in DeMarcus Cousins who's washed up and
Dwight Howard.
Is a cancer on every team he's been on. They brought in Rajon Rondo, who people like at the time, but I am not a fan, and it's a lot of big personalities. They brought in JaVale McGee. They brought in Quinn Cook, who does not have a big enough role on this team for what he is. I love Quinn Cook.
He's good.
I just felt like they really just scrambled and did everything they could. Dwight Howard, another huge personality. Between Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, DeMarcus Cousins, and Rajon Rondo, along with LeBron and Anthony Davis. You think they're all going to suddenly have the best team chemistry in the league? No.
This reminds me.
Not work that way.
Nick, you were probably old enough to remember this, but I don't know about me and Mark. What Mark is kind of saying reminds me of that. Was it 04 or 03 where Karl Malone and Gary Payton joined the Lakers to try to win a title? What year was that?
03, 04. Yeah.
03, 04. That's exactly what this reminds me of. Mark, you can continue on your sleeper, but I just had to say that.
So I'm going to move on from the Lakers, but I've never felt it with them. And when you talk about a team with chemistry, Dame and CJ McCollum have as much chemistry as any duo in the league. You add Nurkic to the mix, it seems like they have a lot of camaraderie right now. And then Carmelo has a lot to prove. So I think they're all gonna work their ass off for Melo to try and prove a point. And if they are the 8th seed playing the Lakers, I might even bet on them to win the series.
Oh, I totally would.
Because they have the passion and the drive in that series to really pull off an upset. Just moving forward real quick to the East, my sleeper, I'll go off really quickly about I love the Miami Heat. And that's the team that I think is going to the finals in the East. I am a huge fan of that rookie class, as I mentioned in last week's episode. Duncan Robinson,
he's
Tyler
great.
Hero, and Kendrick Nunn are phenomenal. Eric Spoelstra's been there before. You're not dealing with a rookie coach like a lot of these teams are. Like a lot of the sleeper teams have really young coaches right now. Eric Spoelstra is a veteran who's been there before. Adebayo, Jimmy Butler came up huge in the playoffs for the Sixers last year. Probably would have taken them to the finals had it not been for that Kawhi Leonard shot heard around the world. But that Heat team is scary. I really think it's going to come down to them and the Raptors.
Yeah, so just really quick, that shot that Kawhi hit, I still get chills thinking about it to this day. Great shot. Nick, who's your sleeper, buddy?
Yeah, I was actually just looking up a couple things while Mark was talking there, because you were talking about the Raptors, right? I'm assuming out of the East. Yeah, that's a bit. I mean, they're playing professional, high-level basketball right now. I think Nick Nurse deserves at least. I mean, he was almost co-coach of the year with the other two, but that's another interesting one for me. And I think it is really just based on their record right now. I'm really liking what the Phoenix Suns are doing. And I know it's crazy to say it. I literally said when you were talking about teams during my pod, Mark, you were saying some team names, and you said somebody who I'm looking at, and I as a joke was the Suns, and laughed at it. But now I'm watching them play. I'm like, wow, this team actually is playing pretty good basketball. I mean, you got to look at the construct of this team. Now at this point, they've had their team together for a few years. It's DeAndre Ayton, who everybody sleeps on because of who else is in his draft class. Like you look at Trae Young and Luka out of 2018, but you don't look at DeAndre Ayton. He was the first pick for a reason. He is that kind of talent. Just yesterday he put up 20, I want to say 23 against the Pacers. He's been averaging over 18 points a game for the past season and a half. I mean, he's got that kind of talent. They have a true point guard in Ricky Rubio, who everybody forgets about. Everybody forgets about Ricky Rubio. The fact that he can, he's good on both sides of the ball when he's trying. It's just because he
relax with the word good. That might be a little
Ricky
too
Rubio's
generous.
good. How would you classify Ricky Rubio?
Average.
A true point guard. He's averaged 9 assists a game. Not this year, but he's done it in the past. He's gotten 2 steals a game. He's actually gotten better as a defender as his steals numbers have gone down. I think that his ceiling has not yet been reached if he gets to it. Unfortunately for Ricky Rubio, he was going there. He was on that Timberwolves team when he was young with Kevin Love, and he hated ascending. No, he liked it. He liked it there. He didn't want to go initially, but once he got there, he was fine because they were.
And then the injury happened.
Then Kobe fell into his knee and was over. So it's like ever since then he hasn't been able to reclaim it. But I think obviously all of those names I'm talking about is around the guy who I am going to talk about, in Devin Booker, where he's always been a shot maker. He's always been a high volume scorer. Obviously he scored 70 in a game, which is just unheard of for anybody to do it. And he's only like 23.
He's young. He's a baby.
Super young. And he's getting better at a lot of aspects. And he is now becoming a focal point that you can build a team around. And I think the Suns they're starting to understand that. I don't think that he is a tradable piece, but I think he's getting to a place where he's going to become more than that very soon. So we'll see what happens when his contract runs out. If they're gonna pay him again. But I like the Suns in the West. I like your take on the Raptors in the East. I also think that the Celtics probably should get a few more looks than they are.
You just jumped the gun a little bit.
But I'll let you go into that, Logan. But I like the Suns. I don't know if you're talking about the Thunder, but I really like the Thunder too. I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's phenomenal. And I think he's going to be one of the biggest stars in the game in the next 5 years. So watch out.
Totally. Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been doing everything that Billy Donovan is asking and even more. But he's literally a potential all-star. I think he's one of the better guards in the West, and he's young. He's got plenty of time to go. So for my sleeper, Nick mentioned them. I'll be a little quick. The Boston Celtics. This team does not get enough credit. I'm not saying they're going to win the title, but I'm saying that if there's a team that's being slept on that has a chance, it's the Boston Celtics. They're a young group of guys. They run fast. They have legs. This is a team that when crunch time is taking place, Nick, and you need guys to muster up energy and drive down the lane, this is the team to do it. You have Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum. You have young guards in Carson Edwards. You have weapons like Jaylen Brown. You have Enes Kanter, who's, I guess, he's a little inconsistent. They have Marcus Smart, who's a great defender. Great defender. Again, they don't have a LeBron James. They don't have an Anthony Davis. But the 4 or 5 guys they have, they're legit. And I know I didn't say Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward can make his shots. He's not the player he used to be. But this is a team that can make some noise in the playoffs.
Jason Tatum's a star. He's a star.
He's a star.
He's the star. Yeah, I think it needs to be said.
He's very young.
The problem with him is he cannot have another game like his first game back. He is liable to go 0 for 15. He has had games like that.
Exactly.
I don't think, and this is an issue that is unfortunate because the greats don't have this problem because they're so level-headed and they're so focused. I think that stuff gets in his head. I think that circumstances get in his head, and I think that causes his game to fluctuate. So that's an issue. But I agree with you. I think the Celtics are dangerous, but we'll see. Nice.
All right. So real quick, guys, without much explanation, we're gonna just say our who we think are going to be the final four teams standing and who we think is going to win. So coming out of the East, I got the Raptors and Celtics. Out of the West, I got the Lakers and Clips. And at the end of the day, as hard as it is for me to say the Celtics are not going to make it, I'm going to say Clippers over Raptors in 6 games. Nick?
In the West, I like the Clippers. I also like the Denver Nuggets because I think that they have a pretty good path to it. I mean, I think 6 through 8 is beatable for them. So, yeah, I mean, at least in the first round, let's see how it goes. They're pretty inexperienced, and they got to get healthy. They got some guys who are sitting. So Clippers versus Nuggets, should everything go well, I think the Clippers can handle them in about 5 or 6 games. On the East side, I had the Bucks and the Raptors. I think the Bucks are still going to make it. I think they figure it out. I don't think the East is their problem. I think it's the West can potentially be their problem. But I'll be quite frank with you. I really don't know if they beat this Raptors team. In fact, I think that the Raptors actually will make it to the finals. They're playing that kind of basketball right now. They'll get to the finals, but I think Kawhi, it's very ironic how Kawhi might have to beat his old team to win the finals. But I think that the Clippers have the best roster right now, and I don't even know if it's really close. They have an amazing 1 to 5 lineup. They have the best perimeter defenders at the top 3 positions. They have Pat Bev, they have Kawhi, they have Paul George. Their wings are the best two-way players and the 2 best two-way players in the entire league, and they have the best lockdown point guard. So I mean, that's a big deal. They have Montrez, who's going to be coming back. They have Lou Will coming off the bench, who's coming back. I mean, they just lost SGA. That was a big loss, but what they picked up was much more. Doc Rivers knows how to do that. He's won championships before. So I think that they get past everybody in the West, including the Lakers. I just don't. It looks like their team literally looks like if you like went to 2007 and wrote down some really good players' names, and that's the Lakers in 2020.
And put it in a jar.
I just don't get it. It looks like they forged a team together with Elmer's glue. It's not sustainable, but I don't think they make it. And I think that I can be proven wrong there, but the Clippers do. And I think the Clippers win this finals, and I think they'll probably have to go to about 6 games to do it. They might have to go to 7. It's going to be very close, probably very exciting. And then I think the Clippers win this entire thing.
If the Clippers go to 7 games in any series, they're winning the game 7. The Clippers just have the most cold-blooded elite. They have Kawhi like that.
Kawhi. Paul George, like that. He's not cold like that. He's got the it factor. Let me explain. He's got the it factor, but Kawhi's a killer. Kawhi has the Jordan factor. He has that mindset. Kawhi goes to game 7s and he wins. He beats them himself. So I think that that's what you have to look at with the Clippers. That is not a man to play with. You're a Sixers fan, Mark. So.
Mark, who we got for your Final Four, buddy?
So in the East, I mentioned it a little bit before, but I definitely got the Raptors and the Heat. I think that's going to be. I really think the Bucks get upset. I don't know exactly how the matchups are going to play out, but I think Bucks Heat is going to be your Eastern Conference Finals. And the issue is it's a very young team. Actually, both of my Eastern and Western Conference picks are young teams playing up against very veteran-style teams. The Raptors are going to have a battle on their hands because the Heat have Jimmy Butler, at least. That's the difference between them and the team in the Western Conference that's young that I'm going to be picking. Because Jimmy Butler's been there before. He's a killer instinct guy like you were just talking about. I'm not saying he's Jordan, but you talked about how Kawhi Leonard is like that in big moments where he can pull up from any spot and is not afraid to take that shot. Jimmy has that factor. I think the Heat beat the Raptors in a very, very close series. And it's a very
and then they go to the
pick.
finals and get blown out.
Oh, absolutely. By whoever faces them in the West is blowing them out. I think the Raptors would have a better shot if they made it, but I'm going to go with the Heat. I'm going with a young team making it to the finals. In the West, I have the Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are my very young team. Can we just talk for a second about how quietly they have drafted better than any team in recent memory? I mean, Michael Porter Jr. looks electric so far in the bubble. He was a phenomenal pick. I don't know how he fell that far
Well,
in that
okay,
draft.
Because he was injured. He was hurt.
with
I know he
MPJ, what happened was we had no sample size for him in college.
Zero.
And it wasn't like a leg issue or, legs bad enough, arms are bad enough. It's
It was
back.
his back.
So it's like we don't know if we're ever even going to see this guy. If he was healthy, he's the number one pick in 2018. And he was miles ahead in terms of projections of DeAndre Ayton or Luka or Trae Young because of the way he is. He's 6'10", without shoes on. He's borderline 7 feet tall. He's got a better jump shot than Giannis. He's as long pretty much as Giannis. I mean, this guy.
He's built like Durant. That's what it is. He's built like Kevin Durant.
He's an in-between guy. He's a tweener, 3-4 tweener. And it's the perfect situation for him because he's slept on. If they get Bol going the way he was in the exhibition games, whoa.
That's a whoa.
Yeah. Well, and Bol's a guy that they did the exact same thing with. I'm pretty sure he had injury history with Oregon. He fell in the draft, and they took advantage.
It's risky, though. That's why
people forget that this offense is ran by a 7'1" Serbian guy who could pass the ball like Steve Nash. He could shoot the ball like Ray Allen. This is such a good team that people just don't. Think about. It's crazy.
Everyone on the team is overlooked, and it's not even. People forget that years back they drafted Gary Harris and they drafted Jamal Murray, which were fun. Gary Harris is such a slept-on role player on that team. That was a great draft pick. And they even have Will Barton, who I brought his name up the other night in most underrated players in the league conversation. You talk about sixth man. That is a guy I want off my bench every day of the week.
For sure.
All right, so Mark, who do you got coming out?
I got the Lakers beating them. It's going to be close, but for as much as I've been complaining about the Lakers all episode, I'm a LeBron guy. I'm a LeBron guy, and when it comes down to it, I don't care about Kawhi Leonard. I don't care about Paul George. There's no NBA mind in the world that's going to tell me you're taking another duo over LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I can't make that argument that I'm saying 2v2, like those two names alone. As a team, I like the Clippers better, but I really just don't think come playoff time, it's not the playoffs right now. The Lakers don't look great, but LeBron brings playoff intensity like no other in the league right now. I really believe that. I think it's going to be the Lakers. As much as I hate to see it beating the Heat in the finals, that's my pick, and I'm sticking with it.
Kawhi literally locked up Giannis last year. You really think he can't control LeBron in the 7-game series? I think Kawhi could shut LeBron down. I think he's done it before. Remember, he did it as a rookie in San Antonio. Do you remember? Have you ever seen the video where LeBron
where he's at the free throw line?
Kawhi's coming in. He's like, you see,
damn,
mad because Kawhi is the best two-way wing in the entire league. I don't think that's a question.
One of the best ever.
People would tell you. He is like Scottie Pippen-esque when it comes to the two-way, Jordan-esque when it comes to two-way potential minus the offense to that extent. He is what he did to Giannis last year sold me. 100% sold me because he punked him for 6 games. Giannis wasn't able to do anything that Giannis wanted to do. Giannis did everything that Kawhi let him do, and it wasn't a whole lot, So I think that LeBron and his downhill speed, Kawhi is very deceptively strong. Have you ever seen his hands? They're like the size of trucks. So, I mean, I think Paul George doesn't have as much of a shot to lock down LeBron, but I think Kawhi absolutely can. And I think if you lock down LeBron and make him pass the ball, now you have to go to your other big man. And I think that if anybody in terms of a big man is going to be able to contain Anthony Davis in terms of size, speed, side-to-side maneuverability, I think Montrezl Harrell is one of those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, I think Montrez is one of the guys he has to come back, obviously, and he is coming back. But change of pace, Lou Williams coming off the bench. I think he's the X factor. I really think he's the X factor. Give you 30 points off the bench. What is the Lakers bench going to do against him? Look at the bench they have. Their bench is circa 2004, and they have everybody who's yelled at a coach before, in public. That's their entire team. So it's going to implode. I don't think it's sustainable. I think that they're just putting this together for now so that they can draft someone better or do something better in free agency. I think they just want draft or trade pieces, and they're trying to win with it. And Frank Vogel, good. He's good. He was good in Indiana. I don't think he's a great coach. I think Doc Rivers is a legendarily great coach. I think that what he did with the Clippers last year cemented it. That team was bad in terms of roster, but they were good on the court, and that's all bad. So
totally. So
they're the better
at
LA
the end of the day,
but
at the end of the day, it seems like we're having a battle of LA and the dinosaurs from up north. But with this being said, Kawhi Leonard, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about basketball. And Nick, I don't want you to say anything. Mark, I don't want you to say anything. In terms of Kawhi Leonard, there's only two guys that I've seen dribble down the court, pull up mid-range without even thinking, and it be so smooth and so elite. It's Michael Jordan, and that's Kobe Bryant. That's all. That's all I'm saying. You fall into any category with those two guys, you're a Hall of Famer to me. By the way, Mark is a Kobe hater. We'll open that argument on episode 20, but football's coming back. Football's coming back. Yeah, I know, right? How does he hate Kobe? What an idiot. Such a shame. Such a shame. But we're not letting Mark talk about this. The gridiron is back. Football is back. The NFL Top 100 list is back, but I don't know how we feel about it. So let's kick off a conversation about the NFL Top 100. Mark, how do we feel about Patrick Mahomes being ranked number 4 and the quarterback dilemma overall? And I know Nick's a Falcons fan, so I know he's going to want to speak on this. But Mark, what do you got to say about the overall quarterback dilemma in the NFL Top 100 this year?
Well, first of all, did anybody see that video of Russell Wilson over the weekend or last night? I believe it was Mr. Unlimited. He just posted some weird shit. Like you got to go watch it. I can't really explain. That guy is weird. I don't know how else to put it. Like I'm a fan of his, but strange guy when you watch that video of Russell Wilson. Anyways, though, that's what I'm saying is that the guys ahead of Mahomes, like when you're talking about full season landscape last year, Mahomes missed a lot of games. It was phenomenal what he did down the stretch, but you're talking about the year as a whole. Lamar was the guy last year. I understand why he's number 1, and people forget Russell Wilson was the MVP in any other season. And then it seems like every year you have to throw Aaron Donald in the top 2 or 3 just to say, oh, we're not forgetting about defense. We're not forgetting about the trenches, even though they completely forgot about the trenches beyond that. So I understand where they were going with Mahomes, but at the end of the day, you're talking about the most talented player in the NFL, the greatest athlete of our generation at this point, and the fact that we're able to say these things after 2 years is unheard of in the sports world. My biggest problem, though, was looking at the list, the fact that it was the other quarterbacks. When we're talking about the quarterback conversation, Lamar, Wilson, and Mahomes in any variation are the clear top 3 from last year.
Oh, of course.
But we were talking about veterans on this list, like a Tom Brady at 14.
Yeah,
and that's Aaron Rodgers at 16 that had really
characteristics.
They were not good years for the resumes that they're used to putting up.
Mark, if you don't mind me jumping in here, Nick said it perfectly during our pre-show, and I'll let him bring up the point I want him to bring up, so I'll save that for him. But you look at this list, and it's almost like people have some sort of value or hold some sort of value in a name. And when you hear Tom Brady and you think Aaron Rodgers, you think icons. It doesn't matter. Tom Brady could have had 25 fucking interceptions last season, and excuse my language, and he still would have been ranked within the top 35. And Nick, I'm going to let you go off on the quarterback stuff because your boy Matty Ryan ain't there. And I know you want to talk about the reliance on names. So, Nick, take the floor here. It's all yours.
Name brand holds a lot. That's how it is in any sport. But the way when I look at this list, it's kind of like if you guys obviously play fantasy football, like the one guy in every league who took like a couple years off and he's back now and he's drafting like it's 2018. That's what this list looks like to me. It's like Von Miller doesn't belong at 26. I mean, he's good. He's still, producing. He's still great, but he's not what he was in 2017, 2018. So it's like those are the kind of issues that I'm running into. Name brand is what we're seeing a lot on this list, and I think that is the best example is Tom Brady. He was not like, what the hell did he do last year?
Nothing. He did nothing.
14. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He got bounced by the Titans, right?
It doesn't. Speaking of the Titans, it doesn't understand
wasn't a good
how
year.
How is your boy Matty Ryan not on the list? But Ryan Tannehill it doesn't make sense to me.
I would give Tannehill. I would put him on the list from last year.
But he
belonged on the list. I think that Matty's better than a lot of the quarterbacks on that list. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good example. I don't know if that was a specific point you guys wanted to make, but he's 41st on this list, and it makes zero sense. And I think, but with Matt being behind names like Josh Allen, I know you guys like Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen too. I just don't think he's better than Matt Ryan. I don't think he's better than Matt Ryan. I don't think Kyler is better than Matt Ryan by a long shot. Right.
You talk about name recognition too, because one of my biggest problems with the entire list. And
Carson Wentz.
It's the position that we're going to get into for the odd man out. I know we're running behind on time here, but how is Odell Beckham even on the list?
I hate him.
After the disgrace of last season, he's number 59.
It's all about the names, Mark. It's all about the names.
He is ahead of Harrison Smith, which is insanity when you look at the fact that they're disrespecting defense and the fact that Odell had a horrible year last year. He was horrendous. And you can say it was Baker Mayfield's fault. It was that offense's fault. I don't care. Look at numbers. Look at what they did on the field. Take away name recognition and get this list right for once.
By the way, Matt Ryan wasn't even on the honorable mention.
Here's my issue with this, and I'm a Giant fan. I'm a Giant fan, and I hate the Eagles. Mark, I'm gonna this is for you. But what I don't agree with is leaving Carson Wentz off this list when he was pretty much throwing the ball to practice players last season. Mark, how do you feel the Eagles were disrespected? How do you feel about Carson Wentz just getting the middle fingers on this list?
I get it.
He's not on it.
He was not himself last year to some extent, and he obviously had the injury problems.
But look who he was throwing to.
Yes, exactly. But Carson Wentz will be perennially on this list. No questions asked. He does though I have less of a problem with him being not on this list as to the general disrespect that he gets across the league.
And I will say, continue.
No, I was just going to transition here to, we talk about the receivers on the Eagles, and that's when we look at the best receivers in the NFL right now, that's why for our odd man out, I really wanted to dive into who, because it's what the Eagles are missing more than anything right now, and that's a number one receiver. I think we're talking about one of the best generations of receivers in the history of the NFL right now, and I want to hear all of your top fives for.
So I think we should start with our odd man out today, and we should work it down to 6-1. So special guest Nick, if you want to start off with your odd man out and tell us who you have ranked at 4, or telling us who you have ranked at 5, 4, and 3. Who do you got?
So my odd man out for receivers is actually Keenan Allen, and I think. Oh yeah, sorry, whatever.
Stole mine.
Because I just think that he gets disrespected and he knows it. I don't know a lot of guys who bailed out more errant passes from a supposed Hall of Fame quarterback Phil Rivers. I mean, he's so inconsistent, but Keenan Allen was very consistent on an offense that was really going away from the run game or from the pass game and focusing on the run, with Eckler and stuff. So I think he deserves it to be at least the odd man out, but you can't put him at you can't put him in the top 5. Now, my number 5, I don't know about how much I love this guy, but I put Devontae at 5. You gonna sneeze or you got something to say? Yeah, the sneeze. I got
Sorry.
Devontae at number 5. I think that him and Rodgers complement each other well. I think he's got really good vertical ability, but he's
Not to mention he's the best route runner in the NFL. Besides that,
yeah, he was also slightly inconsistent last year, and I think that has to be said. So I remember one of the one of the 2 games I watched of the Packers game, and it was just like, where's this guy? What happened to him? But then the other one, he had 120 yards in the first half, so it's like the same thing. He was on my fantasy team, so I watched him. Mike Evans at number 4. I think that this year is really going to probably prove how good Mike Evans is, because he's going to have the best passer in his entire career thrown to him. You know, the thing is, how is he going to be on the sidelines? Is he going to be able to get those passes? I think that he's always been pretty good with that. You know, his top end speed is good, but he can get caught. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of shorter passes for him, but I think he's going to be able to utilize it pretty well. And I think he's probably going to really cement himself in the top 3, top 2 debate of wide receivers this year. But we'll have to see. Number 3 right now for me, I have, I actually did too many. I didn't realize the one at the top was 1, 2. So I'm just going to go through. Devontae's out. Take Devontae out of this. With Mike Evans and then Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, human pogo stick. Runs faster than anybody in the NFL. I think he might be the fastest player of all time. He could honestly run 100 in the Olympics and probably compete, in my opinion. He's just so fast. The way that he gets the ball, I don't know how sometimes. You know, he gets it. He just figures it out. He has always been at a disadvantage, and he's figured out how to become the best with a disadvantage, such as being 5'10". 5'10". Come on, the dude's like 5'8" with shoes on. He's tiny, you know. Michael Thomas, number 3. I'm going to let you guys talk about Michael Thomas because I don't really like Michael Thomas. I think he's he's got a big mouth, and I think Drew Brees does a lot for him. I don't think
Michael Thomas sucks.
I think he's just overrated. I don't think he sucks. I just think he's overrated.
He doesn't suck.
He's got the best, probably one of the top 2 best quarterbacks ever thrown to him. So I think that helps. But my number 2 is DeAndre. Most people have him at number 1. I have him at number 2. I think it's probably half bias, half Deshaun Watson helping him out as well. I think that the quarterback thrown to him to people actually plays a part in how good the actual receiver is. I think that the best receivers can go anywhere with any quarterback and still produce the same way just by going up and getting it, and that's why Julio's number 1. I think Julio can be on any team with any quarterback, and he has the type of Moss ability of Moss Calvin Johnson. It's that level where, you know, Matt Stafford was a 23-year-old launching Hail Marys to Calvin Johnson. He didn't care because he knew the guy was going to get it. Julio is the exact same way. He's been the exact same way his entire career. I know he's getting a little bit up there in years. He's about 31, gonna be 32 this year. But I think I don't think it goes without saying that for me at least, that he's the best receiver in football. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be a debate between him and Jerry Rice. You know, obviously Rice has the Super Bowls, but I think Julio, in terms of just sheer talent and sheer ability, I think that's going to be a closer conversation than most people are willing to have right now in comparison. So that's my 5. Get rid of Devontae. Pretend not even talk about him. I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's a top 5. But
all right, there we go. That is Nick's odd man out of NFL wide receivers. Mark, who we got?
Yeah, I'm just going to run real quick through mine. Sorry, we're running late today, boys, and I actually got to hop on a call after this. But I'm just going to start off real quick. My odd man out, I'm going Tyreek Hill. I have him in there because you kind of have to after what he's been doing. But I'll always value a guy like a Michael Thomas, like a DeAndre Hopkins more than Tyreek Hill, who, yeah, he's fast as hell, but he makes all of his catches with nobody around him. Something I think Jordy Nelson is one of the most overrated receivers of all time, because go watch his highlights. Every catch Jordy Nelson ever made, he was wide open. He could not catch a ball with a defender on him. Tyreek Hill's a little different because he has blow away speed to get by people, but he's dealing with a great quarterback who can throw the ball up in the air 60, 50 yards and hit him every single time. And he's wide open. He runs like a cheetah. Mike Evans, my number 5. Physical beast and really lit up the world last year with Jameis Winston. So who knows what he'll do with Tom Brady. I got Julio in the 4 spot. In his prime, he was the best receiver in football, but I think he's getting a little bit up there, even though he's still a physical freak. I got Davante Adams as number 3. I think he's universally slept on. You talk about a Packers receiver, unlike Jordy Nelson, who can get up there and catch balls in traffic. That's Davante Adams, been doing it for years. Got Hopkins, too. He's going to be great, and I'm curious to see what he does with Kyler Murray. And number 1, Michael Thomas. I don't understand how you can disrespect somebody that is a receptions record breaker. Jerry Rice played with a Hall of Fame quarterback just like Michael Thomas did.
Jerry Rice didn't run 5-run slants every play, buddy. Jerry Rice ran down the field and caught 40-yard touchdowns when the ball's in the air for 40 yards.
It's not a fault on your career to play with an all-time great quarterback. There's a reason why Drew Brees never had a receiver like this before. He's been playing for 2 decades now. He's never had somebody like this.
Colson is the exact same guy. Him and Marcus Colson are the exact same person.
Why didn't he break any records then?
He had 115 catches in a season too. Marcus Colson did the same stuff. You know, we looked at him the same way, and then he left, and he wasn't like this. So, I mean, I like Michael Thomas. He's my top 3. I just don't think he's the best.
All right. So I'll go through mine quickly before we wrap this up. Keenan Allen. Me and Nick's were very similar, sort of. Well, not really because he messed up, so forget that. Keenan Allen, my odd man out. I love him. He just gets hurt way, way too often. Davante Adams, best route runner in the NFL. He's been Aaron Rodgers' only weapon for years. I'm giving Michael Thomas the number 4 slot. I don't care what anyone says. When running slants and digs and ins and little under 10-yard routes are what you need to get all your catches, like that's great and all. But when you're down by 7 points in the 4th quarter and you need to drive down the field and there's 30 seconds left and you have 1 timeout, you can't run a fucking slant. It's just not going to happen. So I love Michael Thomas. Nick, I get what you're saying. Mark, I get what you're saying. I just can't do it. Number 3, the human pogo stick. I love how Nick described that. Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is a complete, like, here's physics, and Tyreek Hill just, no. Tyreek Hill defies the laws of physics. He's fast, he's quick, he does everything you need to do. And I think him and Patrick Mahomes are the perfect duo for the sole fact that Mahomes has the legs and Tyreek Hill has the same legs to scramble with Mahomes as Mahomes is scrambling. So watch out for this Chiefs on 4th down. I think they're going to go for a lot of 4th downs this year because they could convert them. Number 2, Nick, your boy Julio Jones, probably the strongest receiver in the NFL. He is a living legend, but I got to give it to DeAndre Hopkins. What Hopkins does with the quarterbacks he has, he's only had Deshaun Watson for a year and he lost him. Now he's got Murray. DeAndre Hopkins has glue his hands. He's the best receiver in the NFL, and that's it. So those are my odd man out receivers. You want to give our Mark Graham and Nick of the day real quick before we hop off?
Absolutely.
So with my bad, Mark, you're good. Go for it.
You got it first, Graham.
All right. Just because I'm so excited about his first season as a Yankee, my Graham of the day has to be Garrett Cole. He's 3-0 in his starts. He's just so good to watch, and I love him. That's my Graham of the day. Nick, who do we got?
I like TJ Warren. Just want to talk about TJ Warren. I think he's got staying power. Is that who I talked about before? Did I have one before? Because I forgot. No, this is off the cut, right? Yeah, TJ Warren, dude. The dude dropped 53 in a game. He went back, scored 32, and I think he had a pretty decent game today too. Not as much, but with all the shots he's getting, because everyone's hurt on that Pacers team, he's pacing them. No pun intended, honestly. But we'll see how it is. He's going to be a good compliment, good change of pace guy on that Pacers team. And I think he's doing a lot with a little amount of talent around him. So he's an ugly dude, though. Like, no cap. The dude, weird looking, but whatever.
All right. Well, that's all we have for episode 19. Again, follow. Wait. I forgot Mark. My bad.
Wrap it up.
I forgot Mark. Excuse me. I forgot Mark. I'm just trying to get this kid out because he's got a phone call.
We'll wrap it up real quick with my mark of the day. It's going to be the Biebs, and no, not Justin Bieber. I got Shane Bieber. Right now, the AL Cy Young over your boy Garrett Cole. It's going to be a tight race all year. This guy you haven't looked it up yet, look up his name on Pitching Ninja or YouTube, whatever you got to see. Shane Bieber highlights. He's pitching for the Tribe right now, and he's filthy. His ERA is below 1, and honestly, in a 60-game year, he might be able to keep it there. Shane Bieber's my mark of the day. Shout out his name. Go research if you haven't seen him before because he's filthy.
Oh, great. All right. So there we have it. Mark and Graham, episode number 19 in the books. Again, Nick, any final words on what's coming up for NBA Stories if you want to give a little sneak peek?
Yeah, we're just going to be talking about Pistol Pete. Logan doesn't know anything about basketball circa prior 2012. So
No,
I
that's
have
not.
him on I have him on these episodes so that I can talk to him about it and have him like be surprised.
She's just trying to embarrass me, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm good at that. So, we're gonna be talking about Pistol Pete this week. I'm pretty stoked. And like I said, I want to talk about Tim Donaghy relatively soon, but we'll see how that one goes.
There we go. All right. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
All right, peace, boys.